Well, hey, welcome to What I Didn't Say. My name is Craig Smith, and I have the huge privilege of serving as a lead pastor of Mission Hills Church in Littleton, Colorado. Every week I work so hard to boil the passage in the Bible that we're studying down to those things that are going to be most useful in helping people follow Jesus well. But that means that every week there's some stuff that just doesn't make the cut. It might have helped me understand the passage, might have, I thought, been useful to help people follow Jesus, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't as useful as what did make it in. So I kind of threw it out. I didn't say it. So I thought, it might be fun to share some of the things I didn't say in the message in a YouTube channel. So maybe that'll help you go a little bit deeper in your relationship with God or a little further in your following of Jesus on mission. So Matthew chapter 6, we were here in 6:19 to 21 last week, where Jesus says this, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasure in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not steal." Now, what we said this past week was that Jesus isn't opposed to saving. In fact, the Bible speaks very positively about saving. His concern is when we're saving for ourselves. And I was thinking that it might be useful in the message to talk about a parallel statement that he made in Luke chapter 12. I ultimately decided not to do it, but I still think it might be useful. So I'm going to share it now. Luke chapter 12, verse 15, Jesus said this. He said, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And then he told them this parable. "The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest." Now, that word abundance is important. Throughout the Bible, it's very clear that an abundance or an excess comes from God. And so God very generously gives some of us an excess of something. The question is, what are we going to do with the excess? Who's it for? Check out this man's attitude. "And the man thought to himself, 'What shall I do?'" Not a bad question, but look how he answers it. "I have no place to store my crops." You see all the my language happening? And then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself," and literally in the Greek he says, "I'll say to my soul." So clearly this isn't a casual conversation. This is deep heart stuff. "And I'll say to my soul, 'Soul, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry.'" You can see the drift, right? You can see that his trust is drifting from the giver of the excess to the excess itself. He's thinking about the excess primarily for himself, and that's the cause of the drift. But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you, and then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" Right? So clear that God gives an excess not for ourselves, but for others. When we store for ourselves, that causes the drift, the inevitable drift, from the giver of the excess to the excess itself. And so we end up putting our trust in treasures that are not trustworthy, right? And so what we need to do is we need to look in our lives and go, well, where do I have an area of excess? Where has God blessed me with an abundance? And then ask the much more important question, what is the excess for? Who's it for? What's the more for, right? We might say. And then we need to ask the question, how do I bless others with this excess God's given me? When we do that, we keep our trust off of the earthly possessions, off of the abundance, and on the giver of that, God. That's how we practice generosity. We look for our excess. We ask, who can I bless with this excess? So give it some thought this week. Where do you have excess in your life, and how can you be on mission with Jesus by blessing others with that excess? God bless. We'll see you next time. Oh, and by the way, if you ever want to read or check out everything I did say, you can always go to missionhills.org. Or you can find Mission Hills Church wherever you listen to podcasts and listen to the whole message, which was titled, "Where's My Treasure?" God bless. See you next time.